What is going down, squad? We are back not on Wednesday, but on Friday. We are still doing State of the Franchise episode, and we got to check in with Super Bowl Aponte coming up right after this. Let's go. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. It's Super Bowl week, Jason, and I know both you and I would preferably be talking about the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, but hey, not our year this year. That's all good. But let's talk about Super Bowl Aponte. My man's fresh off of Media Row over there in Arizona for the Super Bowl. Man, what was it like being down there in Arizona with the, being in the media, credentialed, all that type of stuff? What was that experience like?
Something I'll never forget. Brad Graham had an impact down there in Media Week too, because every single Eagles player on defense was asked questions about what Brandon Ayuk had said on the Brad Graham show. So your impact was felt. It's just something that again, you dream about. You think that you're ready, and you kind of prepare yourself, but just so many things that are like getting those reps and learning and being able to speak with players, coaches, people that you respect in the media, all of those things, making those connections. And, the NFL knows how to take care of their media, man. They threw a really, really nice party for media members, open bar, free food, all that stuff, man. So, yeah, the NFL treated us really well. My biggest regret is I had to come back yesterday. And of course, that's the day that Rihanna becomes available to speak to. And, it's pretty sad. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, shout out to Leo Luna too, who was there with you. You guys were doing big things out here, asking big questions to big personalities, man. What was one of your did you have a favorite conversation or a question that maybe you asked? A story that you could give us from Super Bowl weekend?
Yeah, a few, man. Four in particular that stick out in my mind. Melvin Gordon's on the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's something that I just did not remember, right? And he's with the team, but he's been inactive. So he comes off to the side and he gets asked a question by an English reporter about what type of preparation he does on game day. And Melvin Gordon gave my favorite quote: "I don't do shit because I don't play." So that was literally his answer. I thought that was great. But then I got a chance to speak with him off the record and ask him about Russell Wilson. Because there seems to be a sentiment that's growing. That's the locker room doesn't like him. He has a parking space. He's treated a little bit differently. Melvin Gordon said there's no parking space.
Right?
Right, he does have an office, but he did say he considers himself as like the guy who watches the most film. He goes, and Russ is in there. If he's in there, he's watching film, so he's in there working. So that was one of them. Got a chance to talk with Trey Sermon, ask him about what it was like to face the guys that were over there. He said that Fred Warner and Trey Lance were kind of trash talking him a bit. Jay Glazer, I got a really good quote from him about the league, like one of my favorite shows. I thought that was great. But then, the one that sticks out in your mind the most is got a chance to speak with Jerick McKinnon on opening night, ask him about the Wildcat play. So it's almost like it just came full circle with it being like almost my favorite joke, but being able to, he was so nice, and he remembered the play, he remembered what the call was, and he remembered exactly what happened. So that was probably my favorite part.
Wasn't he like, did I get tackled in the backfield on that play?
Yeah, he goes, I think I got hit in the backfield. I just started laughing. Yeah. So yeah, it was crazy. Like something that we joke around with, something that's like, obviously one of my running jokes on Twitter, was able to get that quote from him. So yeah, so many more. I got a chance to talk with Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham. You can't get close to Jalen Hurts and Mahomes, man. They're just swamped, or the two coaches. But yeah, it was incredible, man. It's an experience that I'll keep with me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. And like you said, some reps, man, good reps to get out there and get prepared for the next leg, the next event. And it's also, again, like you said, you build connections too, right? You have an opportunity to build relationships with these people in the industry. And again, every time you come around, they're going to be like, oh, there's Jason Aponte. It's hard to miss Jason Aponte too. I mean, a 6'5", beautiful looking man with a great beard. I mean, hard to miss this guy.
All right, so then in the context of that, at the combine, we got a chance to meet Ian Rappaport, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember you from the combine." When he said, I was like, "Oh," I was like, "There you go." So that's why you have to keep showing your face at like these
Yeah.
things. So yeah, very good experience for sure. We'll see him again at the combine.
Absolutely. It's good to hear. And it was cool to see a lot of the coverage that both you and Leo had coming out of the Super Bowl week again. It would have been phenomenal if the San Francisco 49ers were there. And we'll talk about it a little bit just because it seems to be a reoccurring theme this week. I mean, you talked about it. A lot of the players at the Super Bowl were asked about Brandon Ayuk's comments. That kind of feels like the snowball effect. It started with Ayuk's comments, and then it's trickled down to any 49er player, whether it's CMC, Kittle, Robbie Gould, Eric Armstead. If they're at the Super Bowl, they're being asked about that game against the Eagles. And again, we've gotten some spicy quotes out of it and all that type of stuff. But what's your overall just feeling and take on, the way the 49ers players are talking about this game to the media?
Well, two things can be true. I don't think that they're giving necessarily the best quotes at this point, especially since it's Friday. The game's been over for some time, right? And
Right.
the Eagles are here, right? But they are being asked about it over and over. And the Eagles players are as well. Opening night was littered with anybody who's a defender being asked about what the 49ers have said, what Brandon Ayuk had said, what they were planning to do. But I do think that obviously, yes, while they're doing these interviews, all of them, McCaffrey, Trey Lance, all these guys, when they're being asked, they should answer the question. I'm not in love with the answers. And 49er fans, don't kill me. I'm just not in love with the answers because it could just be as simple as what George Kittle said on Rich Eisen. Sure, you feel a little bit down because your quarterback goes down, but they were the better team that day and they're moving on. That's it. That's it at this point. I think we know right now where the 49ers stand. They're venting. They have a lot of frustration, but now it's too far gone to the point where you're still talking about it on Friday. And it's like, man, stop talking about it. The Eagles got it. They're moving on. They're playing in the game. That's it. Like, so it's just, for me, it's two things. One, they can have better comments, but two, the media is putting their foot on the gas with this at every opportunity to ask Eagles players and ask 49ers players about this. Like, I got a chance to talk with Brandon Graham. I asked him about what it was like to just face George Kittle. Didn't even bring up anything about that. He had nothing but glowing things to say about George Kittle, about how much of a game wrecker he is and how great he is, to play against. I just think right now the 49ers, it's starting to fall into sour grapes territory now. And I don't think that that's a look that you want to have right now.
And I think it it just boils down to like I think you kind of alluded to it as well. It's like two things can be true. The things what they're saying and how they feel are valid. They are even correct in some instances in regards to how they feel about the game. But I think, as someone who's credentialed media, I've been credentialed media as well before. It's like there's a way to move, right? There's like, even if you feel something and you feel completely justified in it, sometimes it's just better to just give the PC answer.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can really be taken out of it. Blah 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 blah. Eagles got
Mm-hmm.
us that day. We'll be back next year. On to the next. Even though deep down you're like, screw the Eagles. We should have
Mm-hmm.
cooked the Eagles. If we had a quarterback, we were winning that game. You know what I mean? Like, you can
Right.
feel that way and actually, I think, be accurate in those thoughts because listen, I feel the same way. I think the 49ers, if they had Brock Purdy healthy in that game, it's clearly a different outcome. We don't know if it's a win, we don't know if it's a loss, but we know it's a completely different outcome where we're
Mm-hmm.
actually able to analyze the game. That game, we are just like, no one knows. No one has an answer. We can't. The only thing we can point to and argue about and overanalyze is the Hassan Reddick play,
Mm-hmm.
and just the what ifs that came from that game. So I think two things can be true. I think these players are absolutely valid in their thoughts, their feelings about this game, and some of the things that they've said. But again, it's part of like weighing that balance, right? Of playing the media game because we know I've seen it this week with my interview with Brandon Ayuk. You give them an inch, they're going to blow it up, spin it, and create narratives off of it. And it was a great eye-opening experience for myself because I
Mm-hmm.
got to see that. And you were at the Senior Bowl or
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl, I should say, and it went all the way to there. And it's crazy how sometimes just being honest can be spun as a negative, right?
Right, and you have to also remember this too. The media isn't getting any juicy comments from the Eagles about the Chiefs. When everyone was asked from the Eagles about the problems that the Chiefs present, all of those things, everything has been nothing but respect. There's no sort of bad blood, anything like that. So when you're getting these generic quotes from the two teams that are in the game, how do you get something that's a little bit more spicy? You kind of push the envelope with this 49ers Eagles thing,
Right.
which is starting to brew into something where if the Eagles find a way to win this game on Sunday, don't be shocked if Thursday night in Philadelphia, week one, while the Eagles are getting their rings, the San Francisco 49ers are on the schedule if the NFL was smart because of all that's going on. So
Ooh.
you have to
Yeah.
remember, too, it is Super Bowl week. Everybody wants you to focus on who you're playing, but those quotes that everybody's giving from Lane Johnson to Brandon Graham to Darius Slay to James Bradbury and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, they're all just very generic answers in terms of we have a lot of respect for them. They do a bunch of great things on defense on that side. But when you push the button with the 49ers Eagles thing, you're certainly going to get a better soundbite or something that's a little bit
Right.
more spicy in that way.
A little bit more off the cuff, right? Because it's in
Mhm.
the past, it's done, it's done. The Eagles have won, and what was it, Slay? He was just his
Yeah.
response. He was just he didn't hold back either. He didn't care.
No.
He's like, and he spun it to make it, himself fit in a category, right? And calling it bad sportsmanship or whatever. But in
Hmm.
all reality, it's just two players talking about their experience, being honest about it, and we understand how it's we even had the reporter try to like contextualize what Brandon was saying. He's like, I don't
Hmm.
care. Bad
Yeah.
sportsmanship, right?
And that's the thing. It was literally the first question that it was like one of the first questions that Darius Slay got asked, like during opening night. Like these guys came out, then they go to their podiums, and then there's a nice little crowd around Darius Slay. But it
Yeah.
was literally like I was like, damn, Brad's influence and all this stuff is over here. Like they're really talking about this right now. And yeah, he went on and remarked something about that feels like bad sportsmanship at this point, but it is what it is. Like, that was really it. Very dismissive when I heard his answer.
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it is what it is. 49ers would very much like to be in this game. They're not. The Eagles beat us, and it's going to be very interesting, like you said, what's going to happen next year. Clearly, we have a rivalry brewing up here, it feels like. I mean, these two NFC teams, looks like the Eagles are going to be good for a long time. All things considered, looks like the 49ers are going to be good for a long time. And of course, we have the Eagles next year on the schedule. So it's gonna be a fascinating one. Any other last thoughts, just kind of on Super Bowl week, Euro time there, the comments flying back and forth, anything about that stuff?
No, I mean, just very much again, the media understanding that they're going to get better quotes if they go back to this, burgeoning rivalry between the 49ers and the Eagles, as opposed to asking questions about the game itself. Um, a lot of things that I learned in terms of reporting etiquette, being able to, be in the scrum and you've got to ask questions and you got to wait for someone to finish. And what I learned too is the best way to have a great follow-up question is to listen to what is being said, because the more the player, athlete, coach, whoever talks, the more that you are going to be able to find something to have them add on to. So again, just getting a bunch of reps, really good. I feel good going into the combine in terms of what I learned, and getting the best spot is always the best idea, right? To try and be in front of the podium. So that's how I got a chance to talk like face to face with Dallas Goddard. But yeah, and then Travis Kelsey showing love to all the tight ends. I tried to goat him into a rank the tight ends
Into a
thing, and he
rank,
was like, "Nah, I'm
yeah.
not doing that." And it turned into like everything about the tight ends. So yeah, just little by little learning stuff, and watching other people and picking from their game a little bit too. But again, the more networking, the more that they see your face, the more that they see you at the draft, they see you at the combine, they see you at the Super Bowl, they start to realize that you're a part of this. So yeah, I mean, just an amazing week, man. Something I'll never forget.
Absolutely. Great coverage again, dude. It was dope seeing you guys out there living your best life on the field, all that
Mhm.
good stuff. It was super cool.
They leaked the
Um,
script. If anybody wants to know, it's 10-10 at the end of the first quarter. They were putting it on the screen when we were down on the field. So just make sure you guys are aware of the script.
you
The script
better
got leaked.
tweet that if we get to that point in the game and it's there, that tweet better go out because that thing's going viral.
Yeah, and then and Josh McCown's gonna come back in this game as well too. He popped up on the screen with like -1 rushing yards. So I mean, this script is wild, man. These NFL writers are just going crazy.
That's hilarious. Let's talk about last night, right? So
Mhm,
we had the award ceremony. I
mhm,
think we all kind of agreed, and we could see it coming. Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year, well deserved. Micah Parsons, 0 first place votes. I mean, it was basically undisputed.
mhm.
Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year. What was your take on Nick Bosa getting that award?
Absolutely deserved. I mean, 100%. Nick, Steph Sanchez does the good impression of Nick Bosa. I think it's funny, but the way that Nick
Spot
speaks
on.
sometimes, he's very slow. Like and just like his cadence
Yeah.
is there. But I really like what he talked about staying the course and sometimes things get hard and making sure that you realize when you have a goal in mind, you want to get to it. Yeah, but absolutely Nick Bosa deserved it, man. I don't really think anybody would have thought anything different. Little shocked that Michael Parsons didn't get one first place vote at least.
Mhm.
I think, but I do think this was the least surprising award of the night. I think it was pretty. It was between the defensive player of the year and the offensive player of the year was pretty much set in stone. You knew it was going to be Nick Bosa and Justin Jefferson. I think there was some other awards that came out that were just like, you sure about that?
Yeah, 100%. And also, as a slow talker, I can relate to Nick Bosa very well. Nick Bosa gave his acceptance speech in less than 60 seconds, so very on brand. He said some good stuff though. So
Mhm.
shout out to Nick Bosa. He's like admittedly said this. I'm more nervous than I thought, but that was pretty good to see him win that award. Let's talk about some of the other awards. Let's. I'm interested because I don't know what your take is on this. What is your thoughts on Geno Smith winning comeback player of the year over Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, there needs to be a most improved player and a comeback player of the year, right? Like when Nick Bosa is coming back from that injury in 2020 to 2021, that feels like you're coming back. If you want to do most improved, I think that's absolutely where you can say Geno Smith wins the award. Um, Obviously this was his best season. I'm biased. Christian McCaffrey coming back from the injuries and playing every single game and playing at that high level for both the Panthers and the 49ers. It feels like he had a more impactful time than Geno Smith, even though he's the quarterback. So, yeah, most improved and comeback player of the year is probably my take. They should probably add that on as an award, and maybe it'll gain steam now after it being a few years. Like Ryan Tannehill won it in 2019. What did he come back from? I don't know. Like again, it's like people are coming back from being a backup or just not having a good career to start, and
Or
then
loot
like
like
that's comeback
because
player of the year.
Tannehill was a starter with the Dolphins, right? Then
Hmm.
he goes to be a backup behind Marcus Mariota with the Tennessee
Yep,
Titans. Marcus gets hurt. Tannehill comes in, has a really good year,
gets paid.
and gets paid and gets comeback player of the year. But again, I
Mhm,
think, and I think I saw at first my initial reaction was like, what did he come back from? Because
mhm,
I'm conditioned to kind of look at the last, comeback player of the years. And it's all been guys who've come back from pretty devastating injuries, right? Like Joe Burrow. Obviously, Nick Bosa was in the running, didn't get a single vote last year. But you go down the list, it's like quarterbacks who have all come back from big time injuries. And I think with Geno Smith, it was really his first crack at starting a full year since, he was drafted into the league. So it was like, but to your point as well, it was a great story. Like him
mhm.
being able to, not play for as long as he did, be essentially a career backup at this point, after the whole story of him sitting in the green room and, falling in the draft and the camera's just on him and he's the last one there. So it's like it's a good story. Like I definitely think that he is deserving of the recognition. I think I was just conditioned to be like, don't you have to come back from like a devastating injury? And I
Mhm.
look at Christian McCaffrey the last 2 years dealing with injury after injury, then getting traded, doing it like you said on two different teams, having over 2,000 all-purpose yards. I think what 18 touchdowns. Like that seems pretty comeback player of the year worthy. But again, I guess if because I did see the explanation, they're like, well, it's people who come back from adversity. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, yes,
Okay.
Gino did come back from adversity, so I can rationalize it a little bit more. But like me as well, like you said, I'm biased as well. I'm biased
Mhm,
towards wanting to see my 49ers win everything and
mhm,
not just it's the only thing I can yell at these days because we don't have real football anymore. So I just got to be
mhm.
like, oh, give us our awards. Speaking
We got to
of
be old men.
yeah, pretty much. That's what we've resorted to.
Mhm,
But kind of keeping on that same path, Dabble, Coach of the Year, 16
mhm,
first place votes. Kyle Shanahan, 12 first place votes. I'll say this before I get your take on it. I think both coaches are extremely deserving of being
mhm.
up for it. But did you feel that Shanahan got slighted a little bit for Dabble? Do you think Dabble is deserving? Are you okay with it? What's your take on Kyle Shanny, aka Only Shans, getting snubbed?
That's it. It's time to get spicy. Coach got fucking robbed, man. But look here. But the same thing is, Dabble does have a very much compelling case. Like, think about his situation, right? He gets over there. He's trying to figure out what Daniel Jones is. Now Daniel Jones is on the preface of signing like a 4-year contract. You get Saquon
They
Barkley back.
your option. They like we're not even gonna pick
No,
a fifth year
and
option.
he changed the culture there, and they made the playoffs. They even won a playoff game. I think that's very important. I do think that Brian Dabble is a very good coach. Having said that, 12 straight victories with the influx of quarterbacks and being able to do what he's done. This is a few years in a row now. I do think it was Kyle Shanahan, and I do think that he was robbed, man. I really do. But at the same time, I can certainly see the case for Dabble. Good for him, and they're moving in the right direction over there. But yeah, I mean, that one kind of jumped out at me as one where I was like, man, this has to be Shanahan at this point, especially when you start to get to the points where you're playing with the last pick in the draft. You're playing with a guy that a lot of people wrote off that you didn't think you could get the most like you did out of, and but it is what it is. Dabble is a very good coach, and he was very much deserving. But yeah, of course, I'm gonna ride for Coach. Man, I do think he was robbed.
Yeah, I agree too. I think out of any of the years, we have both been big Kyle Shanahan advocates just based on how he operates his scheme, the way he can coach games. Obviously, he hasn't been perfect, but he does a lot really, really well. And not only that, the way he builds his staffs, like he does so many different things, and he does them so well that this year out of all years going into this season with the unproven Trey Lance gets hurt week 2, then turning to Jimmy Garoppolo, who you had to bring back, who was working off to the side on the rehab field all training camp. Then you get him back up to speed. You start winning games with him. Then he gets hurt, and you go to Mr. Irrelevant. The last that literally everyone in the NFL didn't think Brock Purdy could play quarterback, including the San Francisco 49ers. That's why he was picked in the last pick of the NFL draft. But to be able to then win and stay undefeated with Brock Purdy at quarterback, that feels pretty impressive. And the San Francisco 49ers had to deal with a lot of injuries, that it wasn't like they were healthy the entire time, and that they really had to win in a bunch of different ways. So I agree with you. Like again, shout out to Dabble, phenomenal job. I'm not super upset that he won it per se, you know what I mean? Because kind of like the things you talked about, like you look at they had Richie James out there, wide receiver one.
Yeah,
They had Isaiah
Isaiah
Hodgins, who they
Hodgins.
picked up. You know what I'm saying? Like they're out here, their rookie tight end goes down, Bellinger goes down. They have to turn to
Hmm.
like some journeyman like so. Their offensive line has always been shaky, and then you're getting Saquon Barkley coming back, who's coming off a devastating injury. So I can't be I can't discredit Dabble too much. I just feel like Shanny, out of any of the years, and especially considering he's an offensive coach, and we saw his offense humming like we have never seen under his 49ers tenure with a rookie. I think that is deserving of the award, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, this doesn't feel as egregious as something like, Mike McDaniel winning Coach of the Year, right? Like, I think we all would have said, "Man, what the hell? Like, what? Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't even make any sense." But it felt like it had to be either Dabble or Shanahan, and I guess the voters sided with the guy who is trying to change the culture, has put that team in the playoffs, won them a playoff game, got the most out of Daniel Jones. So, I think when you look at the situations and you try to weigh what's tougher, you can definitely see that the 49ers have better weapons, a better roster, right? But when you think about the amount of quarterbacks that have played, that's where you kind of tip the cap to Shanahan, because he's gotten so much out of Brock Purdy that it made people believe that any quarterback could operate this offense, even though we know that that's not true. So yeah, again, just a masterclass of him this year. During the regular season, being able to win all those games with Brock Purdy, but I'm fine with it. It wasn't something as egregious as maybe I don't know. Like if they gave it to like Mike McCarthy or something like that, I'd be like, what the hell is this? So yeah.
Kellen Moore, offensive coach of the year. Come on down.
Yeah, I'd be like, what? No,
man.
No,
Gammon
man.
Brown says, last offseason, I gave the 49ers brass a pass. No more excuses. I want a Pro Bowler at every position, 22 of them. It's not exactly rocket science. Lynch, step it up. Take this one away, Jason, and I'll follow your lead.
I mean, Gammon's just basically saying what I would say if I was a general manager or an owner of a team. If I was a general manager, I would just simply draft the best players and sign all the best players. And if I was a coach, my offense would score every time we have the ball. And and my team would win every single game and score more points than the other. So I love Gammon's thought process here, man. Like let me be general manager. We're gonna get a stud. We're gonna get a stud at every single position. And I would just sign better players. I would just draft better players. It seems like it's very simple to me. It's definitely not rocket scientist.
Yeah, it's but to play devil's advocate, I don't even think you could do this in Madden if you wanted to.
No.
So Gammon, shout out Gammon, appreciate the super chat. I don't know how serious this comment is, but I think
he's being funny. I think he's being funny in that way of because and then when you think about if you do have Pro Bowlers, let's just live in a world where the 49ers have 22 Pro Bowlers. Is there enough money to give all of them money? That's the thing. It's it's just funny. And I do see, but this is a joke, this question. I mean, this super chat, but it does highlight sometimes how people, when they watch rosters be built, when they watch it and they're evaluating their team, they're sitting there thinking this thing, some people seriously believe this. It's got to be all Pro Bowl guys. It's the 49ers have found ways to get value out of guys and use them the right way. Look at Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill, all those guys, finding them and play into their skill set. So yeah, but there are people that actually believe that, Brad.
Well, and there's a science too. He said it's not rocket science, but there is a bit of at least a science in regards to cap space, and I think that's your point. You can't pay everyone. If you had a New York Yankees type salary cap where you could spend as much money as you want, then you could do whatever you want, right? Which, I mean, again, I'm not a big baseball fan.
No, but the stupid Yankees don't even do that. The stupid Yankees print money. They have as much money as anybody, and they're worried about damn luxury tax. And it's dude, this is why we haven't won a World Series since 2009. If George Steinbrenner was alive, he would literally, what Gammon said, if it was up to George Steinbrenner, he would literally sign an all-star at every single position and just say, I don't care, let's win it all. I miss those days. It's way more feasible in baseball.
He'd say F the luxury tax. We're all in, baby. Yep. So, yeah, I agree. And that's going to be an interesting scenario this offseason. Again, is how they're going to fill these roles, who they're going to re-sign, who's coming back, who's not coming back, who are they bringing in, and who are they drafting, obviously. We're in that time, Jason. It's sad to say.
Draft season.
Still bitter about it. I'm not going to lie. The Senior Bowl came and went. You and I are both supposed to be there. I was just I'm still trying to get my wits about me from freaking was it almost 2 Sundays ago. I'm still reeling from that loss, but so are the rest of the 49ers. It's gonna be something that sticks with us for a long time. Tia says, why does Kittle keep doing interviews saying it's Brock Purdy's job to lose? He won't be healthy until August 22nd, the last week of the preseason. So we think Kyle will throw him out there with no practice. Yeah, right. You want to take this one first?
I think, again, this is basically going to be the theme of the offseason is, can Lance make the jump? And we're still asking the same questions that we have been asking since Trey Lance has gotten here. And that's the frustrating part, right? And I think Kittle sees how he was producing with Brock Purdy, right? He set a career high in touchdowns this year. So of course he kind of feels that way, right? Like he was getting the ball. And Travis Kelsey, when he gave me the quote that I asked for about, tight ends, he said something that you could really, really interpret as like not only a shot at Kyle Shanahan, but a lot of other coaches who don't give tight ends the ball more. Talking about, I wish coaches would showcase their skills the way that Andy Reid has showcased mine. And if you want to read into that, put the tinfoil hat on, he could be talking about Kittle. He could be talking about a lot of people. I could make that same case for like a guy like Dallas Goedert, right? So when you line up Kittle's production this year, how far this team went, it does make sense for him to feel like that. But at the same time, Brad, this is the thing. While we know very little about Trey Lance, we're still optimistic. We still know the talent that he possesses, the ceiling that he can show. And then when you pair him with these weapons and Kyle Shanahan, you can make magic, right? Like that is certainly in cards. But Brock has more on film. Brock has done more, and he's won playoff games now at this point. So it's gonna be the thing that I think T is saying, and a lot of people are frustrated about is these sorts of quotes weren't thrown out there about Trey Lance at the time. And I do think there is just a little bit that needs to be proven, not only to us, but to those guys in that locker room. And when you look at what they did this year, it's hard to not, I completely understand why he would probably be behind Brock, because look at how many games they won. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation. I do feel bad for Trey Lance, because when you're drafted at number 3, it's usually to a team who can let you take your bumps and bruises, and it doesn't matter. This team was at 3 not because they stunk, because they moved up and they were a win now roster. So I do think there was a miscalculation when it comes to what they were able to do with Trey Lance's development while trying to field a win now team. And I think that's part of the reason that, what T is asking, why Kittle keeps saying about Brock Purdy, is because Brock Purdy is a younger guy, but they won a ton of games with him, and they feel confident in him.
Yeah, and I think the perception of the quarterback position, especially for the San Francisco 49ers, is abundantly different than it is perceived from the outside. Obviously, we understand what it is. We've been doing content in this space for a long time. We've seen Jimmy Stan, we call them stands, right? Jimmy stands. Now we have Trey stands. Now we have Purdy stands. Like, it just keeps kind of shifting versus like these subsections of the fans. They're 49er fans, but then they're like compartmentalizing into quarterback fans, and then they kind of go against each other. My quarterback's better than your quarterback. And it's like, I understand it, because it's human nature. We tend to pick sides, and we want to root for that person, and we want them to be successful. But I also believe in a locker room such as an NFL locker room. They care about substance and production. And unfortunately, right now, Trey Lance is how many games has he played? He's played 3.5, I believe it is, over a 2-year span. And that unfortunately doesn't lend itself to build that confidence like Brock Purdy has. Purdy has gone out, he's done it. He went on the road to Seattle. It was reported he had broken ribs and an oblique strain on opposite sides, gets an injection, like that stuff matters to these guys. And when they see that, and they see him throw 2 touchdowns to George Kittle in that particular game, that builds the confidence. Like, they can love Trey Lance. They can love his personality. They can love his intangibles. They can love his traits. But the bottom line is, we just haven't seen enough of Trey. And that's what you and I have been talking about ad nauseum for 2 years. It's like, we need to see him. We want to see him. But every time he gets hurt, and we saw the big storm brew up about the comments about him needing to get healthy and all that type of stuff. But that's the bottom line. The best ability in the NFL is availability. And you just have to be able to get out there and do it. And unfortunately for Trey, he hasn't been able to. Is that his fault? No. But it's been Brock. And Brock has clearly built the trust, not only by Kittle. You had Jed York going out of his way this weekend to tweet about Brock Purdy. Jed York did not have to tweet about Brock Purdy. Like, he did not. We know that. Jed knows these days of what to tweet and not to tweet. But again, to me, this organization top down believes in Brock Purdy and what he brings to the table. Kyle Shanahan, we saw an offense that moved like we've never seen it move before, because they believe in Brock Purdy. What does Trey's offense looks like? It looks like it's for a guy that they're trying to figure out what they have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand why people are getting upset, but I think also we have to quantify Brock has built and he has built that confidence up, and that's why they feel that way. And that's really what it comes down, at least in my opinion. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, and the bottom line, this is a results-driven business. You don't win games with potential. You don't win games with what you can be, right? Like you have to find
Right.
a way to win games and be productive on the field, whether that's by staying on the field or when you're healthy, playing well. So, yeah, again, I think the situation is a bit of a miscalculation when it comes to Kyle Shanahan and what he thought he was able to do in terms of how he could develop Trey Lance while keeping his team in position to be
Yes.
win now.
Yes, I
And I
agree
do
with
think
that.
that again, coach isn't perfect. This organization, it's I don't want to say it's arrogance, but I do think Kyle thinks I can do whatever I want. Like I can do it. I'm better. I'm smarter. I can get this done. It was just a little bit harder than he thought. And at this point, the good news out of all of this, I guess it's not good news. It's the perfect storm of situations, right? With Brock Purdy's recovery timetable, August 22nd, right? That means that Trey Lance gets a jump on OTAs, mini camp, and training camp, right? To show
Yep.
exactly what he is and the strides that he's taken. Now, that
Yep.
is going to be the time where it does feel like a bit of a make or break time for Trey Lance. And he's going to have all the opportunities to just not look over his shoulder, be the guy that we thought he was in terms of, leading the team, saying all the right things, show this team that you're ready to lead them. You've got an opportunity right in front of you. A window closes and a door opens. This is it for you right now, buddy. Trey Lance is kind of a make or break time so the 49ers can figure out what they have.
I mean, I think it's a perfect opportunity for Trey. Like you really couldn't individually. I think as a team, obviously you want both quarterbacks to be healthy going into the offseason program. But if you have to kind of drill down into Trey Lance's perspective, this is like you said, this really could be his last shot to prove to this locker room that he is deserving to be quarterback one. And again, it's just because he hasn't really had those opportunities. And clearly the 49ers felt a certain way about his performance last offseason that they needed to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back, a guy that was cast off to the side. You know what I'm saying? So it's like clearly Trey has the traits, the tools, the intangibles to be elite, but you actually have to go out and do it consistently. We've seen it from Trey in instances. Consistently, can we see it? Day in, day out, drive in, drive out, play in, play out. That's the determination of greatness in this league. And that's why I think Brock Purdy has built that success, is because he's proven play in and play out. Even the plays he makes mistakes, what do we talk about with him? Oh, he fixed it. He went back, he identified it, he didn't make the same mistake twice. And those are the things that I think build confidence in NFL players and in NFL locker rooms.
Mm-hmm.
We
Absolutely.
we got some more super chats on this. I'm gonna go back to Tia since he hit us with the first one. Then I'm gonna go to Cap with the super chat. Tia, to kind of continue on, he says, "I get it. I love Kittle, but maybe he should take the Debo, CMC, and Fred approach. Not my job. I just worry about what I control." What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that. Again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Like every time the 49ers are asked about what happened in the Eagles game, you don't have to give an answer in which, oh, well, if we did this, if we did that. Sometimes the PC political answer might be the best one. Whatever goes on behind closed doors is whatever business it is. So I get that part too, Tia. It's like sometimes it would just behoove them to do, like you said, like what Debo said and Fred, Debo, CMC, and Fred are. And it's just, hey man, may the best man win. I got a lot of confidence in Brock, got a lot of confidence in Trey. It's gonna be fun. Like something simple like that. Media train answer, boom, get it done. And then it won't lead to quotes being dissected, right? And in the same way, like when they're asked about the Eagles, hey, listen, it wasn't our day. They were the better team. They're playing in the game. Stinks, but is what it is. We've got to move on. That's it. Like, see how easy that comes off the head. Like it's not necessarily anything that's like profound. It's probably a boring quote. But I agree with you 100%. Here. It could just be as simple as that.
Yeah, and it really comes down to what kind of access do you want? Do you want politically correct mumbo jumbo that means nothing, or do you want transparency from these players? So if you're going to get upset at the transparency, just expect that you're not going to get any real legitimate
Mhm.
information, and you just got to deal with them saying nothing. So it's a double-edged sword. Weigh it out. What do you
Mhm.
want? Do you want them to be honest? Do you want them to give you an honest opinion, or do you just want like completely untransparent, just diluted comments? It's
Right.
basically pick your poison. What do you want? I
Yeah.
prefer the honest opinions, but again, I get it. People, it can be jarring sometimes when you hear
People
an
want
honest opinion
honesty in real life too. People want honesty until they get honesty, right? So like if
until
we
it's
ever
honest, and then they're like,
until it's super
"Oh,
honest, right?
oh,
Like
I
like
wasn't
you're in a
expecting that."
relationship, you're in a relationship with a girl, and a girl asks, so how are we moving forward in this? And I can give an answer and say, I
Right,
think that I'm having a blast right now. We're kind of just working through it right now. Or I can give you the honest answer of, you know what? I don't see this going past another 3 weeks. That everybody wants honesty until someone's honest and knocks you on your ass. So you got to be
right.
careful.
Yep. So again, dual-edged sword. What do you want? Brian says, there's a scenario where Purdy has a 9-month
Mhm.
recovery for a hybrid surgery. He went on to CanBR with Greg Papa and John Lund, and he kind of talked about the different scenarios that could go into the surgery, which is the internal brace like Nick Mullins had,
Mhm.
or they realize this is more serious and we need to audible towards a more serious reconstruction, which would carry a bigger timetable. So still, even now, we're optimistic that he'll be able to ready go. He'll be able to start throwing in 3 months post surgery, ready to go fully 6 months post surgery, but we still don't know. And he goes on to say, how do you guys see the quarterback situation playing out if that happens, where it does become the longer timetable?
Yeah, and I think this is a very real possibility. That's why when everyone's throwing out the 6 months timetable, that's barring setbacks. That's just if everything in a perfect world happens, right? And
Right.
that's leading you to the third preseason game. So there's always possibilities for this, right? There's possibilities for Trey Lance to have a setback while he's trying to get back with what happened with his ankle as well too. So we're all kind of just hoping things go the way that best case scenario. Life is very rarely best case scenario. So what do the 49ers do if there is a 9-month timetable? Then it means it's going to be Trey Lance and a veteran. And this veteran is going to be in this tier of not somebody you want to start a lot of games with, but someone who can spot start and has been successful in the league in spurts. Somebody like a Jacoby Brissett, an Andy Dalton, a Teddy Bridgewater, right? Like just a guy who's a veteran who that can operate the offense. Not somebody you want to see a bunch of, somebody who will be cheap, but someone who's a steady veteran who, in case something happens to Trey Lance as well. So what you'll see Purdy either go on some sort of short-term IR situation, keep him there, and then you'll see a veteran be brought in, like somebody in that tier of like Andy Dalton, Brissett, Bridgewater.
Yeah, I think they're bringing in a veteran regardless. I would love to see a Taylor Heineke. Jason, I keep saying this over and over again, and I cannot believe I am here. I am slowly opening up to the idea of Sam Darnold. I have
Okay.
been I've been one of the most adamant, like, don't bring Darnold
No.
near my team. I will go crazy. I will just be posting negatively about it all over the place with all my
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
especially when we were looking for that starter and we
Mhm.
landed on Trey, so I was happy with
Jesse
that
said, "God
process.
no."
But we now have Wilkes in the building.
Right.
Wilkes
Well,
actually saw Darnold probably play the best he's played since
let's
being a
let's
pro. Like,
let's spin
I'm
it.
open to all things.
Let's spin it for the good agenda here, right? Let's
Yes,
let's
yes.
let's let's get crazy. What if Darnold and Wilkes start recruiting Brian Burns? Let's start the agenda. Let's get the agenda going, man.
Ooh!
Let's
BB
get
agenda on the rise.
let's get Brad back into the positive, and let's try to spin it a different way.
We just basically recruit all the
Jesse said,
good Panthers players.
Jesse said, "I'll take Doctor Disrespect over Darnold." Yo, he's 6'7".
And he's got a cannon.
Yeah, man, he used to play
Bro,
college basketball.
yeah, he's a unit. But honestly, I do think it comes down to who can you get to be third string? And like the buy-in involved with coming into a situation where you think you're going. I mean, I guess if it's February 22nd, the new league year starts March 15th. Tampering begins like 13th, 14th. So they would know by then if it was this hybrid surgery. So I think that is the next step in this process, right? We figure out after the 22nd, was it what we thought it was? Was it just an internal brace? And we move forward,
Mhm.
or we got in there, it was a little ugly. We had to make the call to go long term over short term. Then I think that will obviously dictate where they go and how aggressive they are in getting a backup quarterback. I think they bring in a veteran regardless. I don't think it matters, but maybe that's the difference between going for like a Jacoby Brissett, who showed last year he could be a starter in a pinch and hold it down and be a leader, or maybe you go down the list a couple tiers to like a tier 3, like Cooper Rush or something like that. You know what I
Or
mean?
a bring back Daddy Sudfeld.
Oh, wake up, honey.
New Sudfeld dart. I need it. Need it.
Oh my god, dude! Can you not wait for training camp? I
Oh
think
yeah.
this might be the most highly anticipated training camp
Hmm.
that we're going to be able to cover, and that includes Trey Lance's rookie year. I feel
Hmm.
like because we're trying to figure out what Trey Lance is, we're going to try to figure out what Brock Purdy is. We're going to try to figure out what the role is for this veteran that they bring in. Like it's going to be this is going to be intense training camp, man. And they're going to be battling. They've already basically both quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, have both said this is a competition.
Hmm.
So we're going into this like these are two young bucks with different like variables and how they've gotten here, but they are going to be competing and both coming back from inches. It's going to be get your popcorn ready. Training camp is going to be explosive this year.
And with as salty as this team is right now after this, you better hope that they just stop talking about the Eagles and put a picture of the Eagles up on your wall if it's gonna make you get angry and want to run it back next year. So yeah, this is gonna be probably the most highly anticipated training camp. There's not as many subplots with the quarterback drama this year as I mean this year coming up as last year, right? Because Jimmy was still working out like at camp, what's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden Jimmy's back, and then that's kind of interesting. You didn't really know what you had with Purdy at that moment. Now there's not really too
Right.
much of that. Trey Lance is going to get a clear look at it. He'll be evaluated properly, and I do think that as long as barring any setbacks, he should be at least getting a leg up in his quarterback one race.
Yeah, it's going to be a very intense offseason, but hey, we're looking forward to it. Texas Niner says Purdy surgery fund. Thank you, gentlemen, for the content with the $13 donation.
13.
Very,
Thank you, buddy.
very on brand. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Gammon also is back with some super chats. GM hat back on. Get Lamar and Brady in the
Let's get crazy.
offseason.
Let's get crazy. Let's
Wildcat offense with Brady.
let's let's get crazy. Brady, Lamar, Rodgers, Lance, Purdy, bring back Jimmy. Let's just go nuts here. Like we're gonna maybe not even play people on defense because you have to have all these roster spots for all these guys, but bring them all in and just let them all let them do celebrity death match kind of like let them all just duke it out and
Ooh.
the winner's quarterback won. You know.
Absolutely. I also do think, one of the biggest losses that we had, 49ers chief of staff, Nick Cray, aka Boombox Guy, going to the Texans with D'Amico. What the hell, man? Why can't we have nice things?
Don't. Oh,
But shout out Nick Cray though. I've gotten to know Nick Cray over these
nice.
past couple years. We chat a bunch. He was responsible for the 49ers bulletin board material. So me and him, I would send him all the good stuff that I would find. But he is going to be missed, aka Boombox Guy, the guy leading out the 49ers with the tunnel. So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hurt by that. I wasn't expecting it. I think it was just like more of a blind side than anything else.
Yeah. Well, You'll be more mad when Aziz Al-Shaair follows him over there to be the starting Mike linebacker
I already
for
know that's gonna
D'Amico.
happen. If
Mm-hmm.
I could find the prop bet for that, I would have
Mm-hmm.
put so much money on that Aziz is gonna go be LB1 for
Mm-hmm.
D'Amico. Maybe we see Jimmy Ward over there.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Is K1 a
Emmanuel
free
Mosley,
agent?
K'Wan
I
Williams.
don't want that. Yeah, is K1 Williams a free agent? I know
Yes,
he's with
I believe so.
Denver.
It was with Denver, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. We see a lot of familiar faces over there with the Texans. It's
Mm-hmm.
typically how it goes, right?
Chris Kaserik didn't go
Brian,
though.
thank God.
Yeah.
Brian says Steve Wilk revised his
Hey,
career.
Josh Norman was on the Panthers last year.
He was, and they were so hyped about it. They were putting out graphics. I was like, oh wow. Like,
Dude,
thank
if
God
Josh
it
Norman comes
wasn't.
back on this roster, I'm gonna put his face on that Michael Jordan meme of "I'm back." Oh my
I
God!
don't
All
know if
right.
my blood pressure could handle that.
The only reason that I'm bringing this up is because Josh Norman got into a fight with Taylor Lewan. Remember when
Yep.
he was with the Titans?
He threw the
Real
helmet at him like
right.
Taylor was like, doing that whole thing.
Real quick, I did get a chance to meet Taylor and Will Compton, the boys. That shit was really cool too, man. The both of them were real cool. That was awesome.
So I saw a report today.
Yeah.
Taylor Lewan is bracing for his release based on the contract. He's contemplating retirement and he's coming off a pretty severe injury.
Mm-hmm.
But if Mike McGlinchey is signing elsewhere, and Taylor Lewan, who was interviewing, he interviewed CMC yesterday, he interviewed Fred Warner today, clearly he's got some ins with some 49ers. I would be 100% open to getting Taylor Lewan, putting him at right tackle for a year, see what he's got. If Mike McGlinchey signs elsewhere, like I saw that as the first thing that I thought of today. I'm like, if that's the case and they release him and he's free to sign and he's in that stage of his career where he wants to win, come on to the 49ers. We'll give
And,
you a nice incentive based deal that fits our cap. And Mike will sign a $12 to $15 million a year contract elsewhere, and let's get Lewan on a prove it type deal.
and something else that might be possible is Jawan Taylor from Jacksonville. He's a little bit younger as well too. I don't think that that's such a bad idea either. If McGlinchey starts to clear and get into that like $15-16 million a year.
I thought Jawan would get more than Mike, but PFF thinks that he'll get less. So.
Yeah, he didn't exactly perform this year, but he is younger. And if I am going to take bets on who the 49ers can get something out of, it's going to be Jawan Taylor, just based on the way that they've gotten things out of Jake Brendel and Daniel Brunskill and others.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But those are really the top two tackle targets on the market. It's, and it's based on scarcity. And I think both you and I saw this coming from a long ways away with Mike. So Mike's probably going to get paid elsewhere. Tia says we probably need to put an ad up for backup quarterback in the wanted ads. You could probably say that.
Is that Javi saying Colton McKivitz clears, pal? Respect Colton McKivitz.
We got Javi in the chat. Oh, yeah, 49ers legend. Colton McKivitz, new RT1. Respect him.
Respect him, pal.
Man.
And back to the one as I mean, at this point, what's the going rate for a practice squad quarterback? And and while we're on the subject of respecting people, saw a lot of people who didn't really like my Nate Sudfeld take. Respect Nate Sudfeld, bub. All right.
Respect the darts. All right.
Respect
you weren't
the darts. There. Yeah, he knows how to spin that thing, man. Get out of here.
It might not be ultra consistent, but he can still spin it.
Right.
John says, "Who comes with Wilkes?" Brian Burns' agenda, baby.
Brian Burns. Well, you have to remember this. He's a DB guy, and I do think that they have everything that they need. I mean, I think they should add up front, whether that's in the draft or whether that's in free agency. Like, I love the idea of getting Zach Allen from Arizona to be on the edge. Deron Payne's a dream to have at DT. Like, but obviously he's gonna get paid. But I do think that you see somebody, if Emmanuel Mosley leaves, right? We do think Jimmy Ward's gonna go. I do think that you see a little bit more of an emphasis on corner. The 49ers have been drafting corner after corner, right? Like it was Lenore, it's Ambry Thomas, it's Sammy Womack. I do think that you're going to see a little bit more emphasis on that now, whether that's in free agency, someone who I think that the 49ers can use on a 1 or 2 year deal if Emmanuel Mosley leaves, and then you can kick Lenore into the slot, somebody like James Bradbury. James Bradbury can be had for a year. He is 30, 31, very much still productive. I understand he plays for the Eagles right now, but he'll be a free agent, second team All Pro, somebody who Steve Wilkes can mold and everything. And Sean, if I'm going to be trolling, respect Josh Norman and get ready for him to come back because Brad needs it.
No! Keep that man away from me. It's probably the only 49er I've really disdained in a long time. I would say he's up there with my Anthony Davis disdain. I could not stand Anthony Davis, former right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers, retired twice on the 49ers. What a bum. Sorry, but that's a conversation for another day. Ryan says, Brad, it was mentioned that the Niners should pick up Jake Haener from Fresno State as quarterback 3. People compare him to Purdy's in lots of ways. Thoughts? My first initial thought is I have no problems with the San Francisco 49ers drafting another rookie kind of mid to late round. But that has to be, you can't expect you're going to get that Brock Purdy type of magic from these guys. It happens from time to time. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. You can find these guys, of course, the story of Tom Brady. Now you add Brock Purdy. You can hit on guys late. But I think the San Francisco 49ers need a level higher of security, understanding that we can at least look and land on the confidence that this guy has played NFL games before and he's been successful, might be towards the tail end of his career. But if we needed him for 1, 2, 3 games, maybe it wouldn't be such a drop back. Yeah. Excuse me. Whoa.
Right.
Yeah. Woo. That came out of nowhere. You have to remember. Excuse me. I'm back now. He's like,
all right.
Yeah. No, but you have to remember, Kyle Shanahan's offense is extremely difficult to learn. And trying to task a rookie to be this kind of backup to potentially play, we can't pretend that everyone's going to be Brock Purdy. So I don't mind it, but I do feel like use that draft capital for safety, edge, cornerback, whatever. Insulate your roster and go and get a veteran who can come in and do it.
Yeah, and I think Ryan, what is meant when it comes to Purdy is just somebody who might be hanging around later on in the draft that has a chance to shock people in the way that Brock Purdy did, right? And I do think that he's dead on with this one, Brad, like he usually is now people have seen one instance of a late round quarterback being as productive as Brock Purdy, and now they think, well, I won't prioritize them in the higher rounds because we can find a Brock Purdy. I don't think that that's the way you should be thinking about it. Everything should always be done in value. You have to take the class into account. Who are the quarterbacks that are in the class and look at your roster that way. So I do think that if people are going to try into the draft and look for a Brock Purdy, that's a bit of fool's gold. But what he's compared to, not only physically, the traits are there, it's almost the same thing, but in terms of somebody who is going to be taken later in the draft that can bring results to the table like Purdy, not necessarily maybe as good. Excuse me, Jesus. Not maybe somebody as good or somebody who operates the offense as efficiently. Good God. You're looking at a guy later on in the draft that possibly could turn into a starter depending on the level that you're looking for. My goodness, man.
It's the off season for us.
It's the off season.
Sure.
We're working through the kinks, man.
Yeah, man, we're still recovering from the year that was had, but also too, kind of to try to wrap that up a little bit. It's probably because of Brock Purdy, these quarterbacks that would be falling, maybe they're taking a round ahead. We see these trends every year. When you look at the trend of It was Lawrence, then it was Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. That was because you had Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson before he Deshaun Watson, these athletic quarterbacks taking over the league, right? So then we saw this incoming crop, athletic, could move, could run, could throw, could do it all. And their stock just skyrocketed, right? We're talking, this is the best quarterback class we've ever seen. Look at Zach Wilson. We don't know what Trey Lance is. Justin Fields so far, a lot of potential. Our Prince, we still love him, but there's still a lot of room of growth to become an NFL passer. Davis Mills falling off a cliff, it feels like. So, it trends. It's based on kind of where the league trends are going. And with Brock Purdy kind of bucking that trend a little bit, guys like Jake Haener are probably going to go round ahead. The value is probably because there are also going to be front office staff who don't want to miss on that guy and be like, how did we do this? How did we let this happen? So again, it's an ebb and flow. Brock Purdy's success actually means probably the quarterbacks will get nudged up a little bit more just because they don't want to be that team that misses on a Brock Purdy. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think the 49ers still should look at a veteran with starting experience who's maybe trying to rejuvenate or like re-energize his career with a Kyle Shanahan. And we both know that Kyle's scheme is run by half the teams in the NFL. So you learn that scheme, you can go to like half the teams, just walk in and run it.
Mitch Trubisky incoming. You heard it here first from Brad Graham.
Oh, Jordan Elliott's hyped right now.
Respect Trubisky, pal.
Gammon Brown says NFL teams make intensive evaluations of what they have achieved during the previous year and resolve the results of their mistakes in their own evaluations. What are you critical about yourself? That's a good question. Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, my Brock Purdy evaluation from what it was in camp. I wasn't exactly impressed with what I saw, but the same patience that I was telling people to have with Trey Lance in terms of you got to let him go through the bumps and bruises, I did not have that same sort of patience with Brock Purdy. I thought it was set final, that it was going to be something where you don't even see the guy anymore. That is the one thing that I'm learning while I'm going through this evaluation process, and how I'm learning how to evaluate on my own is you're going to swing, you're going to miss. You got to own your L's, but you have to also practice what you preach in terms of all athletes, in terms of development. You can have concerns, but don't write anybody's story before they write it, because that's what's going to get you into trouble. So I would say that's my biggest takeaway, and what I'm trying to learn a little bit differently is like, I wanted Trey Lance to be successful. I still want Trey to be successful, but I was ready and willing to give him all the chances in the world. I probably saw 2 practices of Brock Purdy and was like, I don't want to see this guy anymore. I don't care. And that's wrong. Like, it shouldn't be like that. Right. That's my biggest mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just to piggyback on, like, I've talked about it before. I was like, Nate Sudfeld, $2 million guaranteed. Brock Purdy guaranteed practice squad. I'm not even going to watch I literally didn't even watch Brock Purdy because I already made up my mind. That's one thing. But I think if I had to, and this is a great question, Gammon, because I think you do have to do this even as a content creator. Like, right, we even have to look at how we do content, what's working, what's not working, how do we improve it. But if we are looking at it from an evaluation standpoint of these players, I think, and again, I think it's also extra pertinent for this year, is putting a lot of weight into the injury evaluation. I can hope and dream and pray that these injuries aren't going to have an effect on guys, but it is. And I have to I wanted a lot of success for Javon Kinlaw. I really was rooting for the guy. I really thought he could take that next step, but also I have to be a little bit more real with myself that, not to Javon's fault. He's got a knee issue, and it's a reoccurring one. And it's just something where, just being more, I think, realistic with these injuries. And again, we're going to have Trey Lance coming off an ankle injury, having his second, repair to an irritated injury that he already had repaired. Then Brock Purdy, we don't know. So it's like, I can't go into this training camp thinking Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are just going to be normal. Like, that's why I'm so big on we got to get a veteran. Like, we got to get someone in here that if those two guys can't go, we at least feel somewhat comfortable. Like, when I talk about my tier one guys, like, that's why I'm like a Taylor Heineke, Jacoby Brissett, guys who have proven they can start and, have a little juice behind them. That's why I'm like, I want those guys just because I can't blindly believe that both Brock and Trey are going to be fine. I
Yeah.
just can't do that. So I would say, like I felt that way with Javon. I'm like, Javon's going to be all right. He's putting in the work, and I truthfully believe he was putting in the work. But also at the end of the day, sometimes injuries, you can't get away from them. So I think that's with these two quarterbacks I'm keeping in the front of my mind. They're injured and they're coming back from some two serious injuries, which is why I am big time on a veteran. So good question, Gammon. That's kind of where I would end that one. Any
Yeah.
last take on that question?
No, and that's the thing is we're operating with a perfect world timeline, right? Like everything in the world is fine. These guys are going to be back at a certain time, but there are setbacks. There are things that need to happen, right? We even found out that Trey Lance had to have a second surgery to get the hardware out of his ankle as well too. So anything can be possible. I do think that the 49ers need to insulate themselves, as they can't just depend on both these young men to be ready. Things happen, life happens. Rehab is wonky sometimes. So yeah, I do think that's a good call. So yeah, like Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Andy Dalton, these are all guys that I'm looking at as well too, as guys who again can spot start for you, have had success in the league. And then when you look at all the people that he can throw the football to and who's calling the plays, in a few starts you feel much better about that than you do somebody, who, or you're just trying to bank on those two and then just trying to do something, a little bit more desperate later in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that was a great question, Gammon. I think we'll
Yeah.
end it on that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess I got to ask you this because
Mm-hmm.
it's that time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you picking to win the Super Bowl?
I've got the Chiefs, man. Look, and this isn't anything of me being, bitter or anything like that. I just think that Andy is gonna see, at least in the beginning, like when you see Brandon Ayuk breaking wide open on James Bradbury. Unfortunately, Purdy's arm gets pulled back. Like the Chiefs are gonna take their shots. They're gonna hit their shots. It's still Patrick Mahomes. I think Big Red gets his revenge on the Eagles. And Mahomes wins Travis Kelce wins Super Bowl MVP. And
Oh, there you
he's
go.
the first touchdown scorer of this game. That's what I'm gonna throw some money on.
Ooh, I could see that.
Mhm.
I will go the opposite a little bit. I am bitter. So I am picking the Chiefs because I am a little bit bitter. So, I've said it all along. I like the way the Eagles are built. I like Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I think he can be an extremely dynamic quarterback. Their defense is clearly pretty solid. Uh, but I'm bitter, so I'm picking the Chiefs. I'm making it loud and clear so everyone knows. I think both teams are well matched, but I'm going to go ahead with Patrick Mahomes to get the job done. Isaiah Pacheco Hive, we're buzzing. So hopefully we get a good
Jersey,
Pacheco game. Juju Smith-Schuster. So we'll see, man.
big
But I do
USC
think
guy
it's
you
going to
are.
I think it's going to be a good game, nonetheless. But I'm just sick either way, so I don't want to
Trey
talk about
Sermon
it
doesn't get
anymore.
his ring this year. That's what you're saying.
I don't care about Trey
I
Sermon,
don't care,
man.
man. Who cares?
Who cares, man? I don't care about Trey Sermon, man.
I don't care about
Anyways,
Trey Sermon. I mean, he's just a regular running back. God.
oh, good stuff, man. So appreciate you, Jason. Anything else you want to touch on before we kick rocks and get out of here?
Nah, man. Enjoy the football game at the Rihanna concert, guys. It should be a really good game. It's a little bit more. I have a little bit more of a soft spot for the Eagles and the Chiefs now. After speaking with a bunch of their players, they were so nice with their time. They were really nice to me. So yeah, I just hope both teams have fun. That's the best way. But I got the Chiefs winning. But yeah, fun week.
I just hope everyone goes out, has a good time. That's
Hope everyone.
about
It's gonna be me as Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat, watching the game. Like I'm not rooting for anybody. I hope both teams have fun.
I'm just going to make some delicious appetizers and drown my feelings in food, and that's what it's going to come down to. And I'm going to be angry watching. I know I'm going to watch it. You're going to watch it too, right? There's no
Oh, of
way.
course I'm gonna watch it. The thing is this, Brad, is How many times they're going to show what happened in the NFC Championship game with the Eagles, and how many times are they going to show the Chiefs in 2019 and their Super Bowl against the 49ers? It's like we're going to be sitting on the couch watching, like, why are you showing this right now? I don't want to see this. God, why? What? Like, what? Why are we catching strays?
Yeah, God, it's totally going to happen. They're definitely going to do it, especially with all the talk about the 49ers. It's definitely going to happen. Last question. I might do it tomorrow. Not sure. But if you had the first pick in the Super Bowl appetizers, dish, whatever draft, what are you drafting number one overall to be at your table as you get ready to watch the Super Bowl game?
Let's keep it simple, man. Let's just do chicken wings at this point. I mean, you really can't beat that at this point. I mean, it's safe. It's good for everybody. Depends on your sauce. Barbecue's great. I'm more of a spicy and mild type of guy, or, hot wings. Like, I like those. I just have the controversial take that everybody's going to crush me for. It's drums over flats.
Do people really like flats that much? I'm a drums guy too. Is that controversial?
I stayed with my brother in Arizona, and he ordered, and he's like, I'm getting all flats. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing here, man? Like, why is this happening? I was like, what did I do?
Like, what are we talking about here?
Like, why do I have to go through this? So yeah, see, flats all the way. I told you, man. They're gonna start cooking. I'm telling you, man.
Oh, good stuff, man. Shout out Gammon. He says thank you for being vulnerable and honest.
Mod squad, baby.
Great question, by the way, Gammon. So again, we appreciate all you guys. We appreciate all the vibes. After this weekend, it is officially the off season, and we are in the midst of it all. Boy, oh boy, we're here. And it sucks to be, but it is what it is. Appreciate everyone, as always, for tapping in with State of the Franchise. Tell the people where to follow you, Jason.
Yeah, Jason Aponte 2103 on Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe to both our channels as well, too. Shout out to my man Brad. Had everybody moving and shaking down there with his Ayuk interview, getting picked up by Good Morning Football and PFT. Everybody was talking about it. It was probably the hottest topic when the Eagles came out for opening night. And yeah, Niners Nation is where you'll find my articles. I'm doing the free agent profiles for everybody, restricted free agents and people like that. And my prediction on where they're going to go. I've already put out Aziz, Samson Ebukam, and I think this week we're going to do Jimmy Ward, Mike McGlinchey, and Emmanuel Mosley. So tap into to Niners Nation for that.
Did you have Samson going somewhere?
I have Samson walking. I made the prediction that Aziz is going to be a Houston Texan. I just said Samson's going to walk. When you look at the comparable contracts, he had his best year this year. He played the same amount of snaps, which is funny. They're 681 back-to-back years, but he had the most pressures that he's ever had this year. So that contract, players of that ilk, they get about $16 to $20 million per 2 years. I think that's just going to be a little bit too rich for the 49ers blood, and they'll be able to find somebody like a Zach Allen who they can use, or they can just draft somebody. So
absolutely. So check out what Jason's cooking up. He's going to be bringing that fire. So appreciate all you guys, as always, tapping in. We're out of here for now. Grab your cookies on the way out. That's it for the State of the Franchise. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.